This conference will now be recorded.
Right. So today we are supposed to start up with the discussion called as quality. As I told you yesterday's discussion, quality. How do we define this term as quality over here? Right. We'll put it everything in a simple manner. Right. It is defined as justification or confirmation to client requirements are in the product or not. This is one line I can put it as, right? Or otherwise, we can evenly discuss in this, we can evenly put this quality term in a different way, right? Is defined as, what do you call it, like, just a second. It is defined as confirmation or justification to the client requirements. Are they in the product or not? Or it is defined as customer satisfaction of the product. We can put it in this way, right? Now, whatever the product which has been developed and delivered to the client, right? The client, what does he think about? He wants always a quality. So we need, as a test engineer's responsibility, our responsibility is to make sure all those requirements are there in the product. So you can put this line also like this. As a test engineer, it is our responsibility to make sure the requirements are in the product. So end of the day, test engineer, our responsibility is to work on user requirements itself. Apart from requirements, we cannot do anything else over there. So make sure the requirements are there in the product. If it is there, then we can say the product is delivered quality defect free. That is what it is defined as, right? So that is what I'm trying to do, some justification. So as a judge, when I sit on a chair over there, I do some judging. Yes, the requirements are there, or no, the requirements are not there. Otherwise, I will do some confirmation, right? Confirmed the requirements are there or not. That is what I'm trying to do it over here, right? Test engineer's responsibility is to make sure, do some justice to the requirements are there in the product or not. That is how it has been put as quality term defined. So quality is done in how many ways? So there's another question. Quality defined in, is done in how many ways we can put it. So yesterday we discussed about types of testing, ways of testing over there. That was manually doing it and automation doing it. So that same question we can evenly put it in this manner also. Quality done in how many ways? End of the day, test engineers, what are we doing? We are testing whether the requirements are there in the product or not and defining it as a quality. Now, how did you test it? Otherwise, you do it in a manual way or automation way. So that is what it is. The similar one you can put it as, right? Otherwise, manual and automation you can put this as over there, right? Quality is done in ways, whether it is manual or automation, right? So what all you'll be doing it, we can put it in this manner, in this manual and automation way. What to test, how to test, when to test, whom to test, and where to test. These are your testing ways. Also, you can put it as under quality, which I'm changing it from the regular manual and automation like this. Now, what all you will be testing when a product is being given? Yesterday we had a discussion. Functionality you'll be testing, performance you'll be testing, you'll be doing some regression testings, writing some test cases, and so on. How do you test it? Either way, you do it in a detailed manner or non-detailed manner, right? In this place, you can evenly put it, either way you can do it manual or automation manner also. Now, when do you test it? During development process or after completion also you can put it as, right? At the time of development itself, we can start doing the testing, or when it is completely done, you can evenly do it. When I'm talking about completely done, where you'll be testing it? Within organization and at client location. Now, when you're talking about client location, who's going to do that? End users are going to do it. Now, within organization, test engineers and developers are going to do it, right? So that is what I said. After completion, at client location. During development process, that is within organization. That is either wise test engineers and developers will be doing, right? Whom to test? Yesterday we discussed about developers, test engineers, and end users. We named these people as, right? So this is how you can evenly define the ways of quality over there, right? Now, quality, when we are defining the word called quality as justification or confirmation. Now, what is the quality gap can be raised? Gap. First thing, gap can be raised between whom? Raised between client and vendor. That means difference between desired level of quality and delivered level of quality. Now, desired level of quality is what? It is all defined by client. Now, delivered level of quality is all done by vendor. Now, yesterday, like from past 2 days, we were all discussing about, right? As a client, I want my subject to be taught, that is manual testing or testing tools, manual along with Selenium. I need this. So as a client, that is my requirement. Now, what is my vendor is trying to do? Deliver the same level of quality, right? If at all he starts teaching you some other subject rather than testing, he starts teaching you Java. So there is a differences between these two. Client desired level of quality, vendor delivered level of quality. Then there will be a gap raising, which we are talking about quality gap. Now, to overcome these gaps, then what is the organization will be doing? Will be maintaining some quality policy, right? Quality policy, it is basically a strategic document. Strategy document. Need not worry, I'll define the word strategy little later. Basically a strategy document which maintains quality standards, right? Quality standards or the benchmark level of quality, you can evenly say it as, right? Which is predefined in terms of the guidelines of the consistent level of quality of the corresponding product over there. That is what it has been specified, right? Basically a strategic document maintains quality standards. I'll put it like this: prepared by test leads over here in the organization. So when a client specifies a product, so and so product to be developed for me, so for that particular product, organization maintains one standards of quality. So for this product, when we are trying to develop, we are supposed to maintain these quality standards, right? And those standards are being prepared by your leads responsible person, right? And that is the basic standards over there. It's to be maintained for the corresponding product or a project. Now, in order to maintain that quality standards, right, we are maintaining some quality policies also, right? That policies, we'll put it like this something. Right. So we said quality policy maintaining. So those policies, we'll put it into some planning section like this, right? Where test engineer comes into the picture. I'll put it like this for you. Quality plan, right? Quality plan is of two types. One is master test plan. So one second. Now, master test plan and functional test plan. So these are the plans which we are talking about in a quality plan. And a master test plan is done by your test leads, whereas functional test plan, which is being done by you, test engineers, right? So what all you are going to do is, you're going to prepare a plan for yourself. So we'll be preparing these plans when we start discussing about STLC topics, software testing life cycle. When it begins, we are going to discuss about these particular plans, like master test plan and a functional test plan, as well as we'll be evenly preparing one strategy document over there. A clear discussions about these documents will come down at that stage when STLC topics begin. It is just an overview. I'm just putting those names for you right now, right? Quality plan is of two types: master test plan, which is prepared by the leads, whereas functional test plan, which is prepared by you, test engineers. In simple words, functional test plan is nothing but a test case document prepared by you, test engineers, related to that corresponding task or the part of the project which is being given to you in order to develop the application. So in order to test that particular application, right? So we defined the term called quality by giving some justification or confirmation so that the customer satisfaction is onto the product. Quality done in ways: what to test, how to test, when to test, whom to test, and where to test, right? So it has been put in these over here. What all you'll be testing? Functionalities, performance, regressions, and so on. How to test? Manual or automation, we can answer it. Otherwise, detailed or non-detailed testing, we can put it as. Now, what is detailed testing and what is non-detailed testing in essence? Within the organization, we always do it in a detailed testing over there. Whereas at the client level, we do it in a non-detailed manner. You remember, I gave you one example in previous classes saying that we go buy a refrigerator and come once the refrigerator is delivered at the client location, a technical person coming down to that location and trying to do some assembling, installation, something or the other is doing. So that end user or the technical person always does a non-detailed test. But when the product is getting manufactured within the organization, it is always done in a detailed manner over there. Each and every part, the length, the width, the door weight, the handles, everything is being tested over there. Each and every part of that. But once it is delivered at the client location, no, I'm not going to get my measuring tape and going to check what is the length of the door. I'm not going to do it as a technical end user person. So I'll be doing my non-detail. I will assemble it, give the connection, I will see whether it is working properly or not, it is getting cold or not. I'm done with that. I will leave the location and go. So that is how it is being put into differences over there, right? So when to test? during the development or after the development process. Who all will be doing it? We put different names over there: developers, test engineers, and end users also. I can evenly name test leads also. Anyways, these people are also there. So we will evenly put, these are also doing some work, and some work, this is the work they are doing it, like preparing some test strategy documents and a master test plan documents over there, right? I will evenly mention this person's name. Where all you'll be testing it? Within the organization and at the client location. This is how it is being put at. And when we are testing it, gap can be raised, we said, raised between client and vendor. That is desired level of quality and delivered level of quality. Now, gap should not be raised. For that purpose, organizations are maintaining some policies, and the policy is nothing but a strategy document over there, a basic quality standards maintaining over there, right? Now, in order to work for that particular project, in order to put into the strategy quality standards, we are preparing two plans, a master test plan and a functional test plan over there, right? But there's another question also raised for you. Deviation of quality. Now, what are the terms you can put under deviation from quality? Deviation of quality, sorry. The regular word we keep on using it, or otherwise when you keep on reading it, this is the term you can put it as defect. Now, how do you define this word called as defect over here? You have probably heard about this word a lot of times, right? So I'll put it in a book language and as well as our general English language also. Deviation from requirements which is associated with user interface, right? Deviation from requirements which is associated with user interface. This is where you get it from the book language, right? In our language, simple words, difference between expected and actual values, right? This is our simple English man. Right? Now, what is mean by user interface? A user or a client, when they are interacting with the product, right, and the product is not responding as per the requirements, then what are we talking about? As a test engineer, or otherwise as a client, or otherwise as an end user, whatever the role you're playing, we are calling it as a defect, because my requirements are, my product is not responding as per the requirements. So I defined it as defect, which is deviating from requirements, right? My requirement was 1 plus 1 equal to 2. Sorry, 1 plus 1 equal to 3. But it is always showing me 2, which is not my requirement over there. So the very first example which we started, very first discussions over there, right? So this is the line, I evenly put it in this manner. Difference between expected and actual values over there, right? We'll come down to these terms. Now, what is mean by expected value? Expected value. It is the value estimated by whom? Who is expecting these expected values? It has always been put as test engineer. It is the value estimated by test engineer. Now, how can we estimate those expected values? Client has given the requirements and went away. So you probably start thinking about client is always expecting them. Client never expects anything. Client gives the requirements and leaves the organization. So we are playing a client role over there, right? So as a test engineer, I am replacing client over there, but representing from an organization, right? So your requirement was to learn some testing and said, this is what I want. So you have spoken to an organization and the organization have given me the responsibility. So I'm representing to that organization, but I'm trying to get the subject into your brain as per your requirements over there. So test engineer's responsibility is to estimate those requirements over there, right? It is the value estimated by test engineer based on actions. This is what I will put it as. And actual value, result or response of application over there, right? So I'll put it in one simpler manner like this, right? We'll prepare a basic test case like this. I will open an Excel sheet for you, right? So an Excel sheet, I use one column as step description, expected value, actual value, and I will give the status also like this. Right. I'm using these columns, the basic test case columns, right? So we are talking about step description. This is the column where we are putting it according to our actions being performed over there, right? So the very first day we evenly discuss about pen we are talking about, right? And you are supposed to do the testing onto that particular pen. And what will be your first action so that you put it into your step description column? What will be your first action onto the pen when you catch hold of a pen? When a retailer has given you a pen, what do you do? First action. What happened? Did not do any action anytime onto the pen anytime? Directly, whether it is working or not. Yes, that is the requirement. You are supposed to do testing. Okay, you directly scribble it. But I say remove cap. Yes, you are supposed to scribble it, but before scribbling it, you are supposed to remove a cap and see. Right. So my step is to remove a cap and see my expectation is pointer is available or not. Right. This is my expectation. And actual value, yes it is. Then I'll give the status as pass. When I remove a cap, pointer not there, I will say yes it is again. Now whether should I make it as pass or fail? The second step. I'll put this as 1 and this as 2. First step, I removed cap. My expectation is pointer should be available. Yes, it is available. I gave the status as pass. Now the second step, I did the same thing, remove cap. Pointer should not be available. I said yes, it is. What should I do now? Should I make it pass or fail now? I'll make it as pass. Here, I'll write another line there. Right? Difference between expected and actual values, I said, right? I will evenly put it like this way. mismatch between expected and actual values. Now, this particular line was matching, so I made it as pass. Now, the client said, whenever I remove a cap, there should not be a pointer onto the pen there. So that was his expectation. That was his requirement. Now, according to that mindset, I need to work. Yes, it is really not there. So actual value, when I did my execution, yes, it is not there. Then I will make it as pass. If the requirement is like this for you, remove cap, pointer is available. No, it is not available. Then I will make it as fail over here, right? So this is what I'll put it as. This is getting mismatched now when I'm comparing to the earlier two. The earlier two are matching, so I'll call it as pass. When it is mismatching, I will call it as fail. I'll make this correct for you. Pointer must be available. It is not available, right? A little grammatical mistake there. So there is a mismatch, so I call it as fail. Otherwise, it will put like this now. Pointer did not be available. Yes, it is available. Then also I will call it as fail here. I will call it as pass only when there is a matching happening. I will call it as fail till when it is mismatching over there. Is it clear? Or anything getting confused over here, people? If you say yes, then I'll go ahead with another topic. Or else I will repeat this expected and actual value columns again for you. Right. I will do it now again. We'll take another example, right? So if at all this is getting confused for you, we will change the example, right? So we are discussing about a mismatch between expected and actual values, right? We'll take a simple login page for you. Now there is a login page with a username, password, right? There are two objects there. From this two objects, username object requirement is accept only letters, right? Now password requirement is to accept only numeric. This is requirement, a basic simple login page we'll discuss about, right? Now we'll try to write a test case for this only object called user. Step description, enter letters in username. This is my step description. My expectation is should accept, right? My actual value as I enter some numbers, I'll use this as expected. So I'll call it as I. Is this clear? This line? No. I'll enter numbers in username, right? So as per the requirement, should not accept, right? So when I'm entering some numbers, as expected, it is not accepting. Then I will call it as pass, right? So this is the requirement. Username should always accept only letters. Now, letters are entered. Requirement is to accept. It is accepting only those letters. So it is getting passed. It is where I'm trying to enter some numbers, should not accept. It is not accepting those numbers. Again, it gets passed. But if at all, enter number in username, I say should not accept, I say accepted. Now I have to call it as failed, because username is not supposed to accept any numbers, but it is evenly accepting. So we are calling it as failed over there because of as per the requirements in this case. You're able to get this now. Did you understood? That's great. Okay, then we'll continue with the next line. So this was all about defect deviation from requirements, which is associated with user interface. That means difference between expected and actual, or mismatch between expected or actual. Expected is nothing but client requirements. In general discussion, client requirements only. But who is expecting those client requirements? It is always done by you, test engineers. How are you going to do? Based on actions. Actions are nothing but step descriptions over here, right? Actual value, when you do the execution, what is the result or the response of the application? Based on this response of the application, you are updating your status column over here. This is how the word called defect is being defined. And what do we test engineers do when we raise a defect? Now we got a defect. I call it as failed, so I'll make it as highlighted so that I'll be preparing a bug report for this, right? For this particular step where I executed it. And what are we supposed to do? As I called as bug. The very frequent word you people have gone through with this. Now, how do you define this word called as bug? There is no difference between defect and bug. Defect is a term used by test engineers. Bug is a term which is used by developers, right? I'll put it like this. Defect is a term of test engineers. Bug is a term of developers. That means when a defect is raised, test engineers will report it to the developers. If the defect is genuine, the developers should accept, and they will be calling it as a bug in their terminology. That is how it is simple differences over there. And when the developers have accepted that corresponding bug, what do they do now? It is a genuine defect. And for this example, it is a genuine defect, right? And what do they do now? Developers will try to do the rectification, resolving process onto that corresponding bug. In that case, I'll use another term called as error. Now, we write programs, we call it as programmatical error, right? So I'll put the line in this manner. Deviation from requirements, which is associated with source code, right? So earlier when we said defect, associated with user interface. Now it is associated with source code, that is programmatical structures, that is all, right? So that means either it can be any syntax errors or some coding standards issues raised over there, right? So that is how it is. Errors, deviation from requirements, which is associated with source code, right? Example, anything called as syntax errors or coding standard issues over there. But how do you how do you differentiate defect with error? So defect which affects an application, whereas error is the root cause of the defect over there, right? Defect which is affecting. We raised it. We said it is a defect and which is affecting the application. This corresponding application, it is affecting over there, right? And where does it come from? That is the root cause we say. Or otherwise, in more simple, we'll take an example of a mobile phone over there. A mobile phone's power button functionality is what? Mobile phone's power button functionality. When we press the power button, either it should switch on or switch off. Now, when you kept on pressing the power button, there is nothing happening over there. So there is no functionality happening. So as a test engineer, I raised a defect, right? I raised a defect which is affecting an application. Right. Now, when it is being given to the developers, the service centers, now what are they trying to do? They're trying to check whether the button is there or not. If it is there, the connection is having a problem, either circuit board, either the battery, the mobile, where it is coming from. Root cause of the defect, that is what we are trying to do, right? Otherwise, I can evenly put in 2 lines like this. Detect a defect and identify a defect. Another terms like this. Now, test engineer, I detected a defect, right? When I detected a defect, I need to evenly make sure where is the root cause of this. So that is your errors which we are talking about. I'll put this particular over here for you. And detecting a defect is where we are talking about over here, right? Defect which is affecting an application, where I detected it as a test engineer. I did my executions and I detected a defect. I raised a defect, right? When I give it to the developers, they'll try to resolve the issues coming from root cause of the defect, identification of a defect. That is how it has been put as differences, defect to the errors over there, right? We'll come down to another term also like this, mistake. Now, the term is led from where? Mistake. So in a basic discussion, it is coming from the documents related to the base documents. Related to base documents, right? Base documents, otherwise user requirement documents, we'll put it as, right? So what that means, here the application has to be developed, or the product or a project needs to be developed based on the user requirements, and it is being developed in a wrong way or an incorrect process. So how do you get to know how did you develop it wrongly? When you go through the entire thing, you have come down in a wrong manner because the documents are saying something else and it is being developed is something else, right? So that is what it is called as mistake. Wrong way or incorrect process to accomplish a task is a mistake, right? It is basically coming from base documents, and the base documents are nothing but user requirements. Now, when we go to the technical language, we are talking about a BRS document, which we are talking about business requirement specification, right? When we talk about SDLC topics, we'll be discussing about these documents. I'll come down to that again, right? So this is the basic document. This is the first ever document will be related to that product or a project. If that document is prepared wrong, then the entire application is going to be developed wrongly over there. So that is what, end of the day, what did you do? You did a mistake over there by developing wrongly. That is how it's called that, right? And other word, problem, right? Now, who's going to face problems? You developed it wrongly, right? You developed it wrong or incorrect process and delivered to the client. Now, what is the client trying to get over here? Now, client is facing some problems over there, right? Client always faces problems. Why? Because the application has been developed wrongly over there. That means it has been a mistake of, I can put our names over here, test engineer, right? Test engineer has failed to find out any issues, defects from the application. So it is becoming a problem to the client while using the product. Developers have done a mistake by developing in a wrong way. But what is our responsibility as a test engineers to find out those defects? And we did not find out those defects and delivered the client as intact it is. And the client started facing some problems over there. So that is how the problem term is, right? Is a mistake of test engineers, right? When the test engineers failed to find out any defects from application. So client faces problems while using the product. That is how I can put it, as a term called as defect over there, right? There's another term also, one more last term, failure, right? Any hardware issues come under failure, right? Hardware issues are always come under failure. Where I gave you an example of a power button functionality, it is not functioning. That means the particular mobile, the device is a failure device. Where it has been failed from, the power button switching on, otherwise switching it off over there. That is how we put it as failure. But to overcome all these deviations of quality, we need to take care about the factors of quality. Now, what are the factors of quality? The very first one, the basic one, correctness, I will put it as. Now, how do you define it as correctness? How do you call a product is correct or not? Right? All client specified requirement should be available. When the requirements are available, the product is correct. Can you end this line in this manner or not? All client requirements should be available and working properly. Requirements are there. If the product is not working, in that doesn't make any sense. We cannot call it as a correct product. So that is how it has been put. The line, all client specified requirements should be available and working properly. Then only we can call the corresponding product is correct or not over there. Now, there's another word called as usability, which is called as user friendliness of application. Now, how an application is user friendly? By ensuring user friendly error messages or any help document, right? Now we are talking about error messages. The example where I have taken username and password, right? Our requirement is username should accept letter, right? password should accept only numeric. Now, when numerics are entered at username, what is our expectation over there? Right? Numerics are entered, should not accept and display error message. This is our expected value over here. Right? So I'm going a little bit more into the column over there, little more detailed manner and typing. Should not accept by displaying some error message. Right. Now, error message getting displayed in this manner for you. I'll put it like this. Username should accept only letters, right? Should not accept numbers. If numbers entered in username, expectation is to display error message. And your error message is like this. Invalid username password. Now, my question is this error message right or wrong? Or shall I repeat the same entire question for you again? Right? There was a username and a password, a simple login page is there, right? In that login page, there is a username field which should accept only letters, should not accept any number. But as a test engineer, I entered some numbers, but my expectation is to display an error message, right? And my error message is getting displayed. End of the day, the functionality of the application is working properly. I'm not saying it is not working. It is working properly. But my question is this error message right or wrong? Yes. But did we talk about anything called as password in this two sentences which I typed right now? Did we talk about any password? We are only writing test cases. If you see these three columns, I have only written only for the username. I did not even write anything for the password because the password field is not yet developed. If it is developed, I will not test it at that time. I will do it little later on until unless my username field does not get any confirmation. So for that purpose, I'm not going to talk about anything called as password. So my question is, why did this error message point out onto the password, right? So this is your example of your Gmail application. I'll open a Gmail application for you. There's a Gmail page, a login page. Okay, I'm logged in already over there. I'll log out for myself. Right. I'm trying to log in into this. Sorry. I'll go with it. I'm using any username here. So consider this as a username text field, right? It says email or phone number, right? Either you type your email ID, otherwise you type your phone number. Now, I type something else, something XYZ, ASD or something or the other. Now, when I click next, what is my expectation? Right? I think somebody is registered with that. Sorry, in that case. Right. Right. When I click next, our expectation is enter a valid email or phone number. But it is now not pointing out, saying considering that invalid email or password, right? It is not considering password over here because we are only trying to do a testing onto this field called as username, email, or phone number text box, right? Now, I type my email ID, I click next. If that email ID is registered, it is valid, right? Then it will ask for the password. Now something or other I just typed it. Now when I click next over here, what is our expectation when an invalid is entered? Wrong password, try again, or click forget password to reset. Now it is not pointing that email or password is invalid, right? So that is what we are trying to work. This error message expectation is right, but it has to point out only to the object where it is entered invalid. Right, that's what we are talking about, right? User-friendly error messages, making us understand easily working with that corresponding application. Now, you can evenly take another website also where I had an earlier issues. I did not check after that. Talking about IRCTC web page. An IRCTC web page, when you create an account, right? You're trying to change your password. Okay. So I don't find that change password somewhere here. It is fine. You try to go through somewhere it is there, right? Change password. So my username for this IRCTC is being put like this. For IRCTC, my username is Vani373. This is my user ID for the IRCTC web page. I booked some tickets. I kept on traveling onto this username and password. With this username. But suddenly I forgot my password. I'm trying to change that password. It is not allowing me to do it. So it is asking me to enter that username, which I entered it, right? It asks me the captcha to enter. I entered some captcha. And when I click next, it points out that username is not valid. When I booked earlier tickets, that means the username is valid. The username is valid. So it should allow over there. So there is not so user friendly application, part of the application in IRCTC web page, right? So that is also another example you can put it. Now what about help documents? Do the applications have help documents? Now example is your notepad. This notepad has an help document. It is over here on the menu itself. Now what does this help you out? It helps you out in working with that application over there, right? Now every applications do have help document. I'm not contact. Find somewhere it could maybe bottom. Inquiries, general information. I can consider these as something as help documents, right? Otherwise, your application also has your Gmail application help, right? So this makes your application with the client working easily, right? So user-friendly application, that is what it is putting it as. Now, does your mobile devices do provide any help documents? When you buy a mobile, there's a small booklet given with that, which we throw it out. That is your help document over there. Any device, anything electronic or electrical or any device, when you buy it, they give you a booklet with that, right? A help document, the user manual you call it as, right? So those are all coming under your user friendliness of an application. Here's another one. portability, right? Compatibility of application with multiple environments. So multiple environments, multiple operating systems, or multiple browsers, you can say anything. Compatibility, or otherwise support, right? Compatibility or supporting to different environments, multiple environments, platforms you can put it as. Yesterday I gave you an example. Selenium is compatible with different operating systems. It works in Windows, Linux, Mac, and so on. It is evenly compatible to work with different multiple browsers also, like Chrome, Safari, Firefox, and so on. So all this can be considered as your portabilities over there. For this, I can give you a better example of another one called as gaming applications. When you go to a supermarket, look behind a gaming DVD. It says minimum requirement. This game works on so-and-so PlayStation or an Xbox, so-and-so operating system, and so-and-so this. So minimum requirements, when they say, that is your compatibility, right? So that is why I gave you an example of a gaming application, gaming DVD, which you call it as, when you buy them, right? There's another one called as, one more last one, we'll put it as reliability. Now what is this reliability? Durability of application for long duration, right? So duration of that application we are talking about. Now your mobile is 100% charged, your battery is completely 100% charged. Now what is the duration of that mobile when it is 100% charged? It probably works for 10 hours, 24 hours, whatever it is, based on the mobile over there, right? So that is the reliability we are talking about. How well the application can be run for a long duration of time over there, right? So these are the terms which we can put it under factors of quality. There are more factors going to come as we go ahead in the topic over there. And these all factors can be considered as users of testing. So there will be more coming for you for the factors as we get into the subject, into the deep over there, right? So this is about your quality term defined. Quality, how did we define it? By giving some justification or confirmation, right? For giving some justification or confirmation, test engineer's responsibility is to make sure the requirements are there in the product or not, right? So quality, ways of quality to be done, quality gap to be done over there. We need to make sure there is no differences between desired level of quality and delivered level of quality, right? Now making sure for that we are preparing one basic strategy document, quality standards document, right? Now plans document are your master test plans and functional test. There are some terms defined as deviation from quality, defect, bug, error, mistake, problem, and failure. Factors of quality, we define correctness, usability, portability, reliability, and few more coming as we go into the subject. Right. So this is your session for today. Any queries? Now you can start asking.